In the 2020s, a pandemic crippled the world. Some panicked, some denied it. These two guys stayed home, drank, and watched movies. These are the Jaymeson tapes.
So, hey, Abysme,
What's up?
what are your thoughts on Canada in general?
I mean, there are neighbors to the north,
It's true.
and I don't know. I always get a weird feeling about them. I think, they say they do things that normal people in the Western world do. They might be faking a lot of it. Like, someone might have a helicopter, but, they're just making sounds with their mouth.
Yeah, if that's if there's one criticism I could level at our neighbors to the north, I think it would be how often they fake having helicopters
Yeah. It's not a
when
good look, guys.
when
Stop
they
doing that.
actually don't. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jaymeson tapes. It is a show where myself and my co-host Abysme have a few drinks during a movie and then discuss that movie. And I'm going to be pretty honest. I'm pretty shithoused for this one. I've been drinking bourbon mead mules
Ooh.
for the duration of the film, and gonna be honest, pretty toasty right now. How you doing,
I'm
Abysme?
I'm not too toasty because I have to be up relatively early tomorrow to drive Paprika to the airport. But yeah, I've been doing just a random vodka Saint Germain combination, which is pretty
Mm.
nice. Got me pretty comfortable. And it's a good thing that I'm comfortable because this movie very
This was
weird.
this was a weird one, and not in the way our weird one movies are typically weird.
Yeah.
Because, in all honesty, once you get to the end of the movie, what happened is coherent, I'll say.
Mhm. Yeah.
Save for a post-credit scene that I don't think we needed.
No, no. I here's the thing. Apparently, this is based off of a book series, which makes a lot of sense. But yeah, that ending was just the post credits ending, I should say, is just
Yeah.
I don't know.
If it had ended where it ended, fine. But the post credit scene was weird. So the movie we watched before we keep discussing the movie it was Pontypool. Pontypool is a movie that largely takes place in the same room. Which shout out to anyone making a movie on a budget,
Yeah,
who can from that budget create something so, I think, overall fucking really good.
impressive and creative and rather original, which is very rare these days. Granted, this was released back in what 08, 09.
And there's little bit of mid 2000s awkwardness in there, which we'll get into. But overall, enjoyed this film quite a bit.
Yeah,
Um,
same.
so let's get into it a little bit then. It's real hard to do a zombie movie in a creative way these days.
Hmm.
And I honestly feel like we're starting to get over that a little bit. I distinctly remember a time period where we were overloaded with zombie shit, and I all I know is I saw a trailer recently for 28 Years Later, I think it's called, and I think I've finally reached the point where I'm more excited than weary about the prospect of watching that film. But if that trailer had been released like maybe like 6 or 7 years ago, I'd have been like, really? Again with this?
I mean, at least it's being written by Alex Garland again.
Right.
So he writes really good shit. So there is that. But yeah, I remember, I mean, I was around for the oversaturation of the zombie genre, and man, like how many seasons has The Walking Dead been through, and
Too
its
many.
spinoff Fear of the Walking Dead and its other spinoff something is wrong with The Walking Dead. Like I,
Everybody loves The Walking Dead.
Breaking the Walking Dead.
King of the Walking Dead.
Yeah, no, like man, and some of it was just stupid fun, especially the film that ends with Disturbed. You know, never gonna forget that.
But this movie goes out of its way to do something creative and do so with a budget, and like fundamentally, it works.
Mhm.
So, okay, Pontypool. Pontypool takes place almost entirely in the same setting, which is a radio station in a small town in Canada. And on the way to work, after we get an opening, which is our main character. I believe the story is about
Miss Someone Lost Her Cat, Honey.
someone lost their cat, and then I think he mentioned Norman Mailer.
Norman Mailer, and then just starts talking about Pontypool and what the French name for Pontypool is, which it makes sense once the film unfolds what he's doing.
The reason I mentioned Norman Mailer is one of the few things I wrote down in my notes before I got too drunk to remember taking notes. Was after that we get a scene of our main character, who is Grant Mazzy, and a woman taps on the window of his car and says something she can't hear him say. I thought she was saying either sled or slut,
Yeah, same.
but he was like, "Huh, that's weird," and then goes into work. The thing I have for my notes is he enters his work and says hi to the employees there, and one of the employees, who is Laurel Ann, who is a young girl who just came back from Afghanistan, I believe.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
we'll get back to that here in a second. Said she really liked the Norman Mailer reference, and our main character Grant then says, "It takes a girl with big feet to dig old Norm."
Now, obviously, I'm missing this key reference,
Me
so I have
too.
no idea what the fuck that means.
I don't. I what? But this young lady clearly has kind of a crush on Grant Mazzy, and Grant Mazzy is a retired shock jock who is now just doing the news for this small town in Canada. Okay, I'm gonna jump over a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
except for 912, because Grant tells the story on air about some woman tapping outside of his car and speaking gibberish, and says, "Hey, is this an incident where you would call the police?" And someone calls in and says that there needs to be an additional 911. That's like 912, which is where you call in where if you're not sure you need to talk to the police or not. And I adore that concept and how often it would be abused. Hello, is this 912? Yes, this is 912, sir. Yeah, there's a dog outside and it's just kind of like looking at me.
What do I do? Do I maybe call animal control?
Is it doing anything? Uh, no. No, it's not.
Nope.
Anyway, then we get a call in from Ken, who is the pilot of the Sunshine. Is that what they said?
The Sunshine Chopper.
The Sunshine Chopper. And Ken gives news updates from the Sunshine Chopper, and he calls in from his very very real helicopter. It's So he's given his updates, and they go to a commercial break, and Sydney Breyer is alive.
Yes.
Sydney, who is
Producer.
the producer. So we have Grant, who's the on-air personality, Sydney, who's the producer, and Laurel Ann, who's handling the technical stuff. Sydney pulls him aside and says, "Hey, Ken's not actually in a helicopter. He's just in a van."
He's up on top of a hill and can like see the surrounding area. So he just
And
reports on what he sees.
every update we get about Ken from here on out is not good.
You know what? The more I think about that idea, it's kind of amazing.
It's me, Ken, here in a real helicopter.
I don't know if I can trust Ken. He lives in a bunker atop a hill and makes helicopter noises from the sunshine chopper.
Honking it up in the sunshine chopper.
They have this long. Well, Sid, so Grant rather is trying to kind of spice it up because it's the winter. He hates the winter. He finds what he does now very boring. So he's injecting a little bit of his personality and kind of commentary into things. And Sydney keeps saying no, this is a small town, a small region. You just need to report on the news. People are they just want to know, are the buses running and stuff like that. And we just keep getting little tidbits of how hilariously messed up this little town is.
Yeah, the example of that is Grant starts reporting on something the police should be handling and then calls out the police for being drunks. But as soon as he's off the air, fucking Sydney pulls him aside and says, "Yeah, I know both of those police officers and they are alcoholics and they're and
It's
and
the
maybe
end of ice fishing season. Everyone's drunk.
Maybe don't broadcast that on the radio." And it's like, shouldn't everyone know if the cops are drunk? Anyway, Ken is very much really in a helicopter and doing real helicopter things. So that dynamic kind of plays out for a little bit. Grant is the rebellious one trying to report on news. Sydney, the producer, is trying to get him to focus on local things, and there's the techie Laurel Ann who kind of has a crush on him. And then there's Ken, the guy who is in a helicopter, but really it's a van. Ken eventually calls in and says that there is a riot happening.
Yeah.
And it is outside the doctor's office of Dr. John Mendez. And that he's reporting that people are getting stomped on and people are dying in this riot before his line cuts off. And Grant is finally starting to figure out that something is actually happening here. He gets more of an indication when the BBC calls in and wants him on the air live because he broke the story. He doesn't have a lot of it. He has as much information as they have, essentially, about what's going on.
Well, they have a little bit more than him because they say, is it true that French Canadian police have done this and that? And Sydney looks at them and just goes, don't confirm or deny because we know less. And it's almost like an antagonistic thing. But clearly, the BBC would have better outside reporting information given their scope and budget. So they just kind of panic.
So yeah, they do all kind of panic, and then we hear back from Ken, who says he is now in a grain silo, and that the rioters from earlier are eating people, and that one of the rioters is someone he knows and has whispered something into his ear.
And this call from Ken is kind of incredible because we're still early in the movie enough to where I felt like, Ken's just spicing it up because Ken has nothing else going on in his life because he reports out of a van and makes helicopter noises. But it's just the way he says everything is, oh god, people are dying. I'm in a grain silo, the big one, not the small one, the big grain silos.
And I think maybe this movie's strength is, for a good portion of it, we don't know what the fuck is going on, and so does no one else in the movie.
Yeah, it does really good kind of obfuscation of information. I think I called out early on, was this made by the same dude who did Rubber? Which definitely no, it was not. But it just has a absurdist horror element to it for much of the first third.
And I'm going to apologize to you and to everyone listening, because in my drunken state, I almost skipped over one of the more important things to happen to the film.
Oh, no.
When Grant is told he needs to get back on track and report the local news, he is met by Lawrence and the Arabians.
Oh.
And now we have to talk about that.
Yeah. Oh boy. Because that kind of broke our brains for 20 minutes.
Yeah, it came dangerously close to taking me out of the movie.
I'm still confused.
I'm very, very confused now that we've seen the movie as a whole. about what that was supposed to represent or do or convey to us as viewers of the film. So Lawrence and the Arabians are a bunch of white Canadian people in brownface singing an a cappella retelling of the film Lawrence of Arabia. And they are brought into this radio station as a preview for their live show. Is that what's happening?
I don't know because the one of them is dressed up like Osama bin Laden.
That is true. That is a thing that happened in
What
this
that
movie.
has to do with Lawrence of Arabia, I don't know.
One of them is full on dressed like Osama bin Laden and has a fake gun, but he's also accompanied by children in brownface.
And
And
they're singing this weird a cappella song about just what happens in Lawrence of Arabia. And thank God I saw that movie for the first time recently enough to remember and know what it's about. So I can say, yeah, they probably were just singing about that. But I think my favorite part of that scene is when Rick, who Grant fired on the phone in the very beginning of the movie. We don't know who Rick is. Maybe another producer, agent, I don't know. But he fires Rick, and Rick calls him back, and Grant answers the phone and says, listen to Lawrence and the Arabians. These are Bedouins. Oh, hold on. Osama bin Laden is singing right now.
Hey there, everybody. It's Sober Alan. Just wanted to let you all enjoy this recording from the viewing of two honkies being very uncomfortable. Thank you.
Whoa.
I'm sorry?
Whoa. So it's literally their a cappella retelling of Lawrence of Arabia?
Why does he have a fake gun?
Why did they have brownface on? They're on the radio.
What is happening?
Why would they do this at...
There's a lot going on right now, but my brain is still trying to wrap around the children in brownface.
Yeah, no, I can't get past that. Was that a remark on Desert Storm or the Iraqi War? Like, I don't... What happened?
Like, it would be one thing if it was just a retelling of Lawrence of Arabia. But that one guy was dressed like Osama bin Laden, I think?
Yeah. And again, I don't know what the point of this scene is because it's ridiculous and absurd, and our main character is repeating that back to us. And as the audience, we understand that, but why is it in the film?
Why is this happening?
This was released in 08, 09, 08, and that was, I mean, it was kind of, granted the war on terror was definitely still happening, but it's been a few years since 9/11 at this point, so it's not exactly topical.
Okay. I can't come up with any contextualization for why that happened. I've been thinking about it since it happened. And we got through this whole movie and I was like, okay, it's, like a language barrier thing. And maybe that has to, no, that doesn't make sense. Does it have to, no, it's just a thing that happens in this movie.
I'm looking up dates right now to see if there's any like super notable development in 2007 or thereabouts in the war on terror. Okay, Bush presented Operation Iraqi Freedom in 07. So
Sure.
that but like is it just calling out that like rural people everywhere are backwards bumpkins?
Maybe.
Beth, Cleric, can you weigh in on this? Because I have no idea what the fuck this means.
Hey, Canada. Could you let us know why?
Yeah.
That's the only context for the question you get. Canada, why?
Why?
Why, Canada?
What am?
Why? What am Canada?
Oh, all right. Yeah, so that happens, and then they leave.
And after that, it's when we get Ken calling back and saying that like people are getting eaten and stuff like that.
Right.
Yada yada yada. Okay. I'm just trying to get to the point where this movie really kicks off.
Yeah.
Which is, in my opinion, they get the French audio transmission.
Yes, it kind of like hijacks their signal briefly, and it says it's a warning essentially.
There is a warning that broadcasts to them that says, remain indoors, Do not use terms of endearment, baby talk, or rhetorical discourse, or the English language. And don't translate the message. Which is, a little bass backwards. But
Whoops.
so Pontypool is declared to be under quarantine. Grant, who is in the booth and starting to realize like how fucked things are, decides he's gonna bolt. But they head to the door, and there are basically zombies outside. And I will say that the director of this film stressed. I have this pulled up here. Has stressed the victims of the virus detailed in the film are not zombies, and calls them conversationalists, which is actually pretty rad.
It's pretty cool.
Because it was about this time that we kind of started to pick up what the film was putting down.
Yeah.
In that this is a zombie virus that spreads through language instead of any of the traditional ways you've heard the zombism spread.
And immediately I'm thinking like, okay, this is about information or misinformation, or and it's happening in a radio station. It's happening with a radio personality who's providing commentary that may or may not influence people. And I guess we'll talk about whether that is the major theme of this movie. But yeah, something to keep in mind.
It's finally time for me to talk about what I think is the turning point of this film, where we were fully on the film's side. So they realize there's zombies outside, so they go back inside. And Laurel Ann is starting to act strangely. And then all of a sudden, one of the windows is open, and in comes Dr. Ken Mendez. Dr. Mendez, sorry. Ken's the helicopter guy. Sorry. Don't mean to confuse him with Ken. Dr. Mendez. Just
totally
Dr.
real helicopter pilot.
Ken, who is a very real helicopter pilot. No, we are joined by Dr. Mendez. And Dr. Mendez is almost this film's Larry.
Yeah, Dr. Mendez is the best character in this film. And also, as far as we know, lived.
We think.
We hope.
Dr. Mendez just crawls in through a window in snowy Canada and immediately comes to them trying to talk to Laurel Ann, who is like stuck in a conversational loop, and says, "Hey, you got to get the fuck away from her. Let's go to the soundproof room right now."
Yeah.
They go into the radio booth and lock themselves inside. And he interviews Dr. Mendez basically live on the radio. And Dr. Mendez is like, "Hi, I'm Dr. Mendez. You may have heard about some shit popping up at my hospital."
And he, like, Dr. Mendez just starts running through everything that's been happening with clinical fascination.
Yeah, he expositions the fuck out of this.
And normally that's like annoying when someone just comes in and does exposition dumps, but the way that the actor portrays it is one of such eager fascination of like someone who just really loves their job. And like Laurel Ann is running at the booth and bashing her head against it. And at one point, because she can't actually transmit the virus, just vomits blood. And he stands up and goes, "Ooh, ooh, so that's what happens."
Laurel Ann is at this point, I think, chewed her lips off of her face.
Yeah.
And then she's just like, and then just vomits blood and dies. And Dr. Mendez is like, tight.
Interesting.
I'll write this down in my notes. So Dr. Mendez has theorized that this is a virus that spreads through words and attaches itself to words in the English language.
Exclusively English.
Exclusively English, which explains the report they get in French on the radio. And from then on, Dr. Mendez starts specifically speaking in Armenian. He specifically starts speaking Armenian because he's realized that it's only the English language that this virus transmits itself through. So because it's Canada, Grant and Sydney then start communicating specifically in French.
Yes.
Though Grant doesn't speak much French. Oh, this is when they get on the loudspeaker.
Yeah, we neglected to mention that a few scenes prior, the crowd had somehow found or made their way over to the radio station and were banging outside on the walls. And this is right before Laurel Ann got infected, but probably what she was infected from. And now they've broken in, essentially.
I theorized that she got infected when she was talking to her family on the phone.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
But it's interesting to theorize about nonetheless. And in case you were wondering, this is a recommend on our part. Go watch this movie. Let us know your theories.
Definitely.
So to distract the horde, which are attracted to people speaking, they use their position in the radio booth to broadcast something on the speaker outside, so that all of the conversationalists get distracted and go out there. They had all gathered around the radio booth. I don't know if we mentioned that.
Yeah.
And we're pounding on the glass. But it's a soundproof room, which is why that was kind of established as a safe zone. While in the soundproof room, Sydney accepts a phone call from her children who want to say Happy Valentine's Day. And she uses several terms of endearment and baby talk during that phone call, which is why I think that phone call is where she ended up getting infected.
Yeah, totally. It's very delayed how long it takes for her to be infected, though, which is interesting.
Yeah. It's a universe we don't know the rules of, though. So
True.
So Mendez is speaking Armenian. Sydney and Grant are speaking in French. Oh, right. They step out of the room to do something, and suddenly their power goes out, and it cuts back on, and the Canadian national anthem starts playing loud on every speaker. Grant starts just hitting it with a hammer, and Dr. Mendez crawls back out through the window he came in. I think serving as a distraction. But while that's happening, Sydney and Grant lock themselves in a back room, and they're just both sitting there. Sydney is obsessively writing. She starts writing a little bit, but when it cuts back to her, we can see that she's written a ton on the walls. And one of the things that's already on the walls, I feel I should mention, is the hyena dog robbery. Which we've come to find out is a band from Toronto, Ontario, active in the 2000s. Didn't get a lot of popularity, but you can find their music out there and add them to the Jaymeson tapes playlist along with Frog Lord.
Oh, we missed a pivotal scene right before this. Yeah, as Grant and Sydney are making their way to the back room, they get jumped by one of the kids in brownface.
Oh,
who's just there.
That did happen.
That happened, and other than just serving as a moment of tension and conflict and a setup for something else to happen, which we will discuss very momentarily, the way that the child is dispatched is accompanied by a very, very noticeable sound clip used in many a video game, but it is rife in Warcraft 3. So that kind of broke me very briefly of why they would choose that sound, because there are so many other more appropriate sounds.
Maybe it's a free library thing.
I assume it is, but why that one? Why would a conversationalist sound like a weird, digitized, distorted pig monster? I don't know. But then again, why was Lawrence and the Arabians in this film? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ever going to wrap my brain around Lawrence and the Arabians. But yes, that was important. Thank you for bringing us back.
My pleasure.
It's also important for a scene that follows, I think, which got a good laugh out of me, which is that kid jumps Sydney or Grant, one of them, I think. It jumps one of them, and then the other just stomps the kid out to death. And there's a scene afterwards where they're arguing over who killed that child.
In French.
In French. Then they get locked in the back room. That's what happens. Dr. Mendez is gone from the movie. Thank you very much, Dr. Mendez, for all of your service.
Thank you, Doctor.
Oh, we also skipped over one of my favorite lines of the movie that I can get out of the way right now. Do we really want to provide a genocide with elevator music?
Oh.
Yeah, no, I like this movie after we watched it, and I think I like it more even more talking about it.
Yeah.
Except for that post-credit scene, which we'll get to.
We'll get to that. Yeah.
So they're locked up in the back room. Sydney is obsessively writing words over and over again, and she starts using the word "kill" a lot, and she keeps bringing it up over and over again in conversation. Okay. Super spoilers for everyone listening from this point. Even me and Abysme are about to get spoiled for something. This is from the director, Bruce McDonald, describing the 3 stages of this virus. The first stage is you might begin to repeat a word. Something gets stuck. And usually it's words that are a term of endearment like sweetheart or honey. The second stage is your language becomes scrambled and you can't express yourself properly. The third stage, you become so distraught at your condition that the only way out of the situation you feel, as an infected person, is to try and chew your way through the mouth of another person. Now, I was with you till the third part of that.
That, I want to come back to this when we do our kind of like, what's this movie about? Because that is interesting.
So Sydney has gotten caught on the word kill, and she keeps saying it over and over again. And Grant, realizing that she's become infected, then comes up to her and convinces her that the word kill doesn't mean kill, it means kiss. He cycles through a bunch of other words first to try and convince her that's what they mean, but settles on kiss. And then they kiss, and it's weird.
Yeah, there was no real chemistry between them. I know that they're like, in a survival situation, and that sometimes can be played upon appropriately. And this movie has done a good job of like setting up our characters in the beginning, kind of letting us know who they are. But that was
weird.
Yeah, I don't like it.
We've established that Sydney has a family. Also, let's go back a little bit. We established that Ken is a pedophile.
So Ken dies on air, essentially, and it's sad because we're like, oh, Ken, so goofy.
Ken, the weird guy who didn't have a helicopter but pretended to.
That's charming. And then Sydney drops the bomb.
No, Grant is trying to comfort her and is like, I bet Ken was a good friend of yours. And then she's like, Ken was a pedophile. I mean, like, we didn't know for sure, but I didn't let him around my kids or anything like that.
And then the next bomb that drops is that they're still on the air. So that was just told to everybody.
Oh, that's another thing we skipped over. Because, man, for one setting, a lot happens in this movie. There's a very artsy moment in this film where Grant is reporting on people's obituaries as they're dying in this basically zombie apocalypse, but it cuts to like this black and white footage of all the people as he's like saying all this crazy shit about them like killing each other, and it's kind of nuts.
It is, and it's delivered in very like, it almost sounds like a YouTuber trying not to get demonetized because it's saying someone, their life ended in conjunction with another person who briefly knew this other person who they ended their life also. Like it was, very artistic and deliberate in its delivery, and it's just kind of in the middle of the movie. It's just a weird, almost slideshow of black and white images of the victims. Strange.
Jumping back ahead, Grant manages to convince Sydney that the word kill now means kiss.
Right.
And we discover that a significant part of this virus spreading is that whoever's listening has to understand the word they are hearing. So if you're able to convince them that that word means something else, you could potentially, bring them back. So having figured this out, and I kind of love this ending scene because it's like, we figured out the cure. Let's get on the radio and broadcast what our cure is. And they just don't know how the fuck to do that.
Yeah, like you're struggling with such a complicated, arcane idea of how the fuck to make people not understand something, which requires them to understand what you're trying to do, which then makes it a paradox. And how do you explain a paradox? You can't, by
Right.
definition.
Grant gets back in the booth, and Sydney hops on her headset and is trying to help him along through explaining this, and it's just not working out.
No.
Until finally we hear the French guy from earlier come back on the broadcast and start counting backwards from 10. And once it finally reaches 0, we hear an explosion and then credits. Now that would have been fine.
That was good. Oh, and the credits are accompanied by other broadcasts and like people calling in to radio shows, kind of depicting the spread of the virus to other regions. And it all almost sounds like it's kind of okay because governments are taking action and certain quarantines are in place. But then at the very end, a broadcaster mentions Pontypool and then gets stuck on the word Pontypool. So you realize, oh no, which is very almost tropey at this point of, no, it's still around. But like it makes sense for this very unique idea of how a virus could spread through somatic means.
Okay, so hey, Abysme.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to read you 2 things right now.
Okay.
Straight off of Wikipedia.
Okay.
And one of them is how the movie actually ends in that post-credit scene. And the other is how it ended in the radio play version of this.
Okay.
So, how this movie actually ended. In a post-credit scene, Sydney and Grant, now known as Lisa the Killer and Johnny Deadeyes, survive the virus and continue speaking English by maintaining a system of improvisational roleplay.
Uh-huh.
That sucks.
Yeah. Maybe that's related to the book or something, but it doesn't make any sense given the movie.
Now let me tell you how the radio play of this ended. In this ending, when Grant convinces Sydney that kill now means kiss, she asks Grant to kiss her, which means she's asking him to kill her.
Right.
Soon after, when broadcasting his own obituaries of Laurel Ann and Mendez, who Grant assumes will meet his demise eventually, he confirms the death of Sydney, implying that he kissed her at her request. Grant, now completely alone, realizes that he has become infected through the word paper. Resigned to his fate, he allows himself to be taken by the word, repeating it over and over again before finally uttering one different word, trap. Now that's just better, right?
That is on whole better.
Yeah.
Way better.
The whole, like, he kissed her at her request thing when she had taken the word kill to mean kiss.
Yeah.
And just even if it's a bleak ending, the way that works out, that's just on the whole better than what we got instead of the post-credit scene of this movie.
Yeah. Why make 2 endings?
Yeah. It literally could have, if you had taken that post-credits thing out, I would have been leagues happier than with that weird. I don't consider that post-credits scene to have existed.
No. We'll leave in Lawrence and the Arabias, but I'm taking that out.
Yeah, like I'm gonna say this is a 7 out of 10 movie that could have been an 8 out of 10 without that post-credits scene.
Absolutely.
And that was Pontypool.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around Lawrence and the Arabias, but further, I'm trying to kind of get at what the metaphor is. It's a virus spread through getting choked up on getting kind of locked in on a word, not understanding it, and then let's go back to the 3 stages. So you begin to repeat a word and it gets stuck, and then your brain kind of gets scrambled and you can't express yourself properly, which just reminds me of, I mean, it sounds like it's kind of related to that one. It's not quite, what's it called? It's not quite like dementia, but you're trying to say something, but you say something else. Like the words that come out are not matching to your actual thoughts. I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
The 3rd stage is then you become
dyslexia.
well, that's reading.
No.
Yeah, there's like another thing where like if I wanted to say to you like, hey, can you get me some lemonade? But instead I said, the cats are brown, then like it's something else. I don't know what it's called. But anyway, then you have the third stage, which kind of throws that out of the running here of you become so distraught at your condition that the only way out of the situation you feel as an infected person is to try and chew your way through the mouth of another person. And
Yeah,
it feels like it's people who like hear something or an idea gets locked in their head, they fixate on it, and this idea or this concept messes with them so much that the rest of what they say and do almost doesn't make sense. And if someone doesn't agree with them or they feel like they're not being heard, then they do their best to like force that idea on the other person and try to use them as a mouthpiece. And it like maybe this was I don't know if the author or the screenwriter have like talked about this, but it almost feels like how the political climate was ramping up so hard during the war on terror and during the expansion into Iraq of people just like it's almost it's what we're seeing the fruits of it now with just political division and discourse just evolving so hard that people become obsessed with what they perceive as what's really going on and stuff like that. And again, I could be reading a fuck ton into this, I don't know, but the presentation of this movie is this is coming from a radio station. There's a lot of miscommunication, possibly misinterpretation, and it just kind of takes over. And it's not something you can really fight. Like, how do you make someone reverse their understanding on something when they hold it to be so incredibly true? And beyond that, I don't have any theories about what the symbology is here.
yeah. No, it's so I will say that they've been trying to get a sequel to this movie off of the ground for some time.
Interesting.
As of 2023, two sequels to this movie, Pontypool Changes and Pontypool Changes Everything, have been in active development since 2016, and a spin-off film has been released. Apparently,
They got the spin-off before the sequel. That's interesting.
I guess.
I mean, if you weren't able to get it made pre-pandemic at this point, I don't know what chance you have, unfortunately.
And I don't know. Look, I like this movie.
Same.
I don't know how interested I am to see it keep this universe keep going.
Well, is there okay, the books are a trilogy. So there is more actual story written, but yeah, I would echo your sentiment of like, where do you really go with the rest of this? Do you need to?
Especially if that post-credit scene is what we're spinning off from, because
Yeah.
man, the way that fucked everything up.
It just took all the wind out of every sail on this ship. Because we were riding a high by the end of the movie.
I'm going to be the editor of this episode, and I'm going to put in the comment in the not comments in the description of this video the timestamp for when you should stop watching the film.
Yeah, please do.
Sober Alan here. Pontypool is no longer on the streaming service we were watching it on, and I'm not paying to get that timestamp right now. So yeah, I didn't actually do the thing I just said. Sorry. Bye.
Because the post-credit scene of this movie is garbage.
I like maybe it means something deeper, but without context, without setup. Again, like we were extolling the virtues of Rubber, an absurd film. And we've reviewed on this channel another entry of that director's filmography, which is Deerskin. Like, absurd is not bad. It's very welcome here. That ending makes no goddamn sense and does not fit.
Yeah, straight up, it's a bad ending.
It's bad.
By the way, like and comment if you'd like us to cover another film directed by Quentin Dupieux. On this show, because he's done more movies.
There's several more that he's done that I am actually rather interested in. We'll see.
I don't know if smoking causes coughing fits into what we do on this show, but I will absolutely watch it.
We watched Shaq, so
That's true.
I don't.
Maybe smoking causes coughing is gonna be a birthday viewing.
I want to see that. I want to see Mandibles because that sounds amazing. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Anyway, Pontypool.
Check it out.
Yeah, absolutely watch it. And again, I am absolutely going to post an actual timestamp for this movie in the description for when you should stop watching.
Shut the fuck up, drunk past Alan. We're not doing that. Just don't watch the after credits thing, okay? Just don't watch after the credits.
Yeah,
It's bad.
it's
The post credit scene of this actually very good movie is bad.
It's not even like Third Lord of the Rings, where you just have 17 endings where everyone has to have an epilogue. Like that was annoying.
Yeah.
But it made sense within the context of the narrative because these are characters who, yeah, what did they do? Oh, okay, cool. I didn't really need to know that, but all right. This is just utterly incongruent. We have to make a drink.
Shit, I guess we do.
And this is going to be tough.
Before we move on to that real quick,
Uh-huh.
like the actual ending that the movie had, if the argument for them putting in a post-credit scene is that we needed to see the main characters survive for a sequel,
Oh no.
you could have done that with the ending you had.
Yeah.
It was ambiguous enough that you could have brought them back and had it not be weird. You made it weirder, in fact.
It cuts to black and we don't know what happens, which
Yeah.
is, perfectly fine. Cool, whatever.
Yeah. Again, this is weird because this movie is a solid recommend from me, but that post-credit scene is just dog shit.
At least it's at the very, very end. Like if that had happened, well, actually, I don't know. No, now that I'm thinking about it, like if it had just been a weird, like one-off 15-second thing, I probably would have just lumped it in with Lawrence and the Arabias and the weird black and white obituary slideshow. So no, the fact that it's at the end that we were like listening to the credits narration, no, that actually makes it worse because you wasted my time. Ugh.
Okay.
Anyway,
so we have to before we make a drink out of this, we have to say our spider room moment.
Oh.
And I feel like
this is tough because we thought we had it nailed down, but then things kept happening in the movie.
Yeah. I think my actual spider room moment needs what we thought was our spider room moment for context.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think my spider room moment may be the child in brown face attacking them.
It's that pig squeal, man. It's that utterly jarring fantasy monster getting killed in a video game pig squeal that, maybe other people don't know that because they're not giant nerds like we are. But then
it's like whenever there's been multiple occasions now where I'm playing a video game and I hear a sound that is so clearly from Doom.
Yes.
And I'm sure they got that from a free sound library, just like the Doom guys did. But it's now so clearly attached to that thing that it's like, why did you do that?
The slightly detuned camel sound. It's just all over Diablo 2. It's all over early 90s video games. It'd be like using that now. But not like, the original sample, but like what they detune or like just lower the pitch of to make a weird type of thing.
It's like what using a Wilhelm scream has become.
But like Wilhelm screams are attached to a scream.
Because now you hear a Wilhelm scream and you can't detach what it's from. But yeah.
Like that's at least like someone's like gets shot or falls off a moving car or something, and you're like, oh yeah, well it's the Wilhelm scream and eye roll, but like that's a scream. This was a person who, yes, they're a zombie or zombie adjacent thing, but like none of them.
I'm sorry, conversationalists.
Conversationalist, my bad. Excuse me. But none of them are making like weird, sounds. They're just saying things because that's the point. So just making that sound is just it's so out of place. You could have literally put anything from your free sound library in there. Anything else, it would have been better. So yeah, I think that's my spider room moment as well. There's a lot of runner-ups, of course. Everything that Dr. Mendez says is a spider room moment.
Yeah,
Me.
Ken being a pedophile.
Ken's phone calls. Oh, there's so many. It does this deliciously absurd horror that you don't get a lot of, but I'm quickly becoming a fan of.
You know what? I feel like I have to backtrack on my statement as much as we talked about the child in brown face attacking somebody. I don't know if that's quite as jarring as the whole group of people in brown face. One of them dressed like Osama bin Laden with a fake gun,
and he shoots it at the end, and it's like the fake gun you get from fucking Spirit Halloween. It goes, it's like just clicking.
Doing a singing a cappella retelling of the plot of Lawrence of Arabia. I don't know if anything actually tops that.
No. Even the original Spider Room moment is hilarious.
Yes.
But it makes, again, sense within the movie. What's his face playing the flute in the woods to summon Frogman? Hilarious. Makes sense within the movie. I don't know where this fits in or how.
We've a couple times on this show argued what the definition of a Spider Room moment is.
Yeah.
And I think the definition we've settled on is you'll know it when you see it.
It literally is the obscenity definition from SCOTUS way back in the day. Yeah, I'll know it when I see it.
And I really think in that case on my end it has to be Lawrence and the Arabians.
We're gonna leave that in the Jaymeson tapes unsolved mystery vault at the top of the list. And if anyone can find an interview or has a prevailing theory, please let us know in the comments, because I'm going to be thinking about this tonight. Like, I'm going to lose sleep over this shit.
Why did this happen? Why?
And it makes less sense because, like, Sydney brings them in saying like, no, this is a small town, and this is a small local group, and they want to like advertise their thing. Cool, you've made an a cappella retelling of Lawrence of Arabia. Why are you dressed like that? Number one. Number two, you're on the radio. No one can see you, and they're not going to describe what you're dressed as because you're in brownface. So why?
That's an excellent point. I did not think of. Why in full costume? On radio.
So ostensibly, it's for us, the audience, to see how like irked Grant is by this, but we also spent 20 minutes like not absorbing what was happening in the movie because we're like, what, why, what was that? Oh.
Okay, so I have the Wikipedia for the movie open, and it says that Boyd Banks as Jay, parentheses Osama. He's apparently a Canadian comedian, and in February 2019 faced criticism following incident when, during a live television news report on a meeting responding to SiriusXM Canada's controversial plan to rebrand its Canada Laughs channel, he began licking the reporter's ear. Used to have a recurring role on the Red Green Show.
He's been in a lot of movies. He was in Jason X.
He was in, hold on, He's been in a lot of movies. Jesus Christ.
Good lord. Right
And one
before
of
Pontypool, he was in The Love Guru.
Silent Hill Revelation, the
Oh
sequel.
no.
I'm sure that's not going to come up again.
Okay.
Wow. He was in
This
Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle as a ER patient.
interesting.
Anyway, what's
So this okay. The theme of this movie is words, and the crux of this movie is how do you make someone misunderstand something? So it's like conflicting ideas. So somehow we have to make a drink that has conflicting flavors that is supposed to confuse your tongue, which automatically is going to make for a bad time because mixology is about the coherent blending of flavors unless you're trolling someone like with cement mixers and brain hemorrhages.
okay?
So Malort has to probably come in here, right?
Fuck. God damn it. All right.
Yep.
The first thing I was going to say is one of my all-time favorite alcohols is Crown Royal, which is a Canadian whiskey.
Yeah.
So I love Crown Royal. So I wanted to incorporate Crown Royal somehow just because it was Canadian.
Sure.
But now we're going to fuck it up.
I don't know. I don't think we're in a universe where this can be a tasty drink just because of the movie it's based off of. Which is weird because we've made bad drinks off of bad movies because like we don't want them to be good. But this is a good movie that is going to force a bad drink.
Okay, so we've got Crown Royal as our base. Let's just start there. It's a Canadian whiskey.
And you know what? He was drinking Glenfiddich in the beginning, and Sydney got drunk off of Glenfiddich at the end. So whiskey is a good starting point.
Yes, not specifically Glenfiddich, but
no.
Yeah, we do have Crown. Blah, blah, blah. I'm drunk as fuck, ladies and gentlemen. Crown Royal Canadian whiskey as our base.
Now he was doing an Irish coffee. We could do something with that. Or whatever we do, I think it has to be. It can't be a tall drink. It's got to be like, something you would an old fashioned. Essentially, it doesn't have to be an old fashioned, but like that size of glass.
Well, it's okay. If we're talking coffee, it's winter outside.
Oh yeah.
So let's say an Irish coffee. We've got coffee as our base. Let's get some Crown Royal whiskey in there. So we've got a nice toddy going.
Yeah.
Now, how do we fuck it up?
Well, okay, if it's already, let's see, coffee. Okay. Do we do coffee, Crown Royal, Bailey's as a cream, and then just kind of dribble some Malort at the top?
Oh no.
And just leave it there.
Yeah, I guess that fits into what we're doing here. Like, for the most part, good, but just something in there is fucking everything up.
Just really sticks out, and you're like, why? I was enjoying this. Maybe, okay, you know what? No, it's an Irish coffee. You can do the Baileys if you want to make it a little creamier. But then you have to have a Malort chaser on the side, and you have to do it at the end.
Okay. Yes.
And everyone watches you. Make sure that you do it. You can't escape.
You can't bail.
No.
All right. This is Pontypool is now a delicious Irish coffee that you have to chase with a shot of Malort.
Jesus Christ. This feels gross.
We are going to call it the kiss and the kill.
Oh, it's a great name though. I feel dirty. I don't feel good.
I feel bad like what we did. I feel bad about what we did for this drink because honestly, it's a good movie. It just does not need what it did to itself.
No. And I feel like it is important that we really impart that of like, why is that in there? Like, this is like 08, 09. Were post-credit scenes even that common back then?
Not
I know they
really.
are now. Yeah, so like why? I'm so confused. It has to be something from the book, like teasing the sequel, but that you don't do that. Not that way. Ugh.
Uh, anyway, I looked up the spin-off film and doesn't look very good.
Oh, Dreamland.
Fuck it. Maybe I'll watch it for the Patreon. Anyway, watch this movie. Just again,
Do it.
just forget. Either don't watch the post-credit scene or just forget it happened after you watch it.
I'm gonna
'Cause,
try and excise it from my brain if I can.
yeah. Because otherwise, you've got a fucking 8 out of 10 movie on your hands.
Yeah.
Anywho, hey, thanks for joining us for this episode of the Jaymeson tapes. We're back in 2025.
Woo!
And we've got more episodes coming. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to say. Nope. Support us on Patreon. Bye.
Bye. The Jaymeson Tapes is hosted and created by Alan Cheney and Abysme. If you have a movie suggestion for the podcast, please leave a comment, message us on the Creative Horror Discord, or tweet at Creative Horror with the hashtag Jaymeson Tapes. Creative Horror is a network of creators working together to build a constructive community of horror fans. Please visit us at creativehorror.com.
Maybe it's like when Michael Jordan played baseball.
Oh no, there's a Yeti outside.
There's a big black cock on the line? Well, we killed a child.
She was in brownface, so I don't feel too bad about it.